Imagine waking up before sunrise on a vast, dusty plain. Thousands of soldiers stand perfectly still in the mist. No one speaks. Across the valley, an opposing army waits for a single command. This is Plataea, 479 BCE. A year earlier, the Greeks had achieved a stunning naval victory at Salamis, but the threat was far from over. King Xerxes had returned to Persia, leaving behind his most trusted general and a massive, undefeated land army. Looking at the rigid, identical posture of these Persian archers, you get a sense of what the Greeks were facing. General Mardonius commanded a professional, multinational force, a war machine designed for efficient, systematic conquest. The Greeks were desperate. Persian forces had already scorched their way through the peninsula, leaving villages in ruins and the city of Athens itself a hollowed-out shell of ash. In response, bitter rivals did something they had never done before. Sparta, Athens, Corinth, and dozens of other city-states united, pooling their resources to field 40,000 heavily armed hoplites. If this alliance fractured here, the individual city-states would likely be absorbed as provinces of the Persian Empire. The local experiments in self-governance and open inquiry that were just beginning to take root in Greece would have faced a sudden, quiet end. This cross-section shows the deadlock. The Greeks held the high ground, the Persians occupied the flat plain. Attacking meant slaughter. Instead, Persian cavalry swept behind Greek positions. They severed lifelines, captured food, and destroyed water sources. As Greek resource indicators plummeted, the stalemate shifted. For the Greek soldiers on the hills, the situation was becoming critical. Without water or food, their discipline began to fray under the pressure of a slow siege. Mardonius had successfully engineered a crisis. The Greeks could no longer stay on the high ground and survive, but moving meant exposing themselves to the Persian cavalry on the open plain. Under the cover of darkness, the Greek commanders attempted a secret, desperate maneuver. They ordered their entire army to abandon their ridgeline and withdraw to a new position closer to fresh water. This diagram shows the resulting chaos. In the dark, the unified Greek formation fractured. Different units took the wrong paths, orders were lost in the confusion, and by dawn, the army was scattered into disorganized clusters across the valley floor. When the sun rose, Mardonius saw exactly what he had been waiting for. The Greeks were no longer a unified wall on the hill. They were fragmented, isolated groups that appeared to be in a full panicked retreat. Convinced the Greeks were broken, Mardonius abandoned his winning strategy of attrition. He ordered his entire army into a massive, aggressive charge, his soldiers breaking their own ranks in a sprint to finish the enemy. The Greeks' failure to retreat in order had drawn the Persians off their own favorable ground. Mardonius had traded his patient tactical advantage for a chaotic chase, and in doing so, he gave the Greeks the one thing they needed: a direct fight. As the Persians closed in, the retreating Greeks suddenly halted and turned. They locked their heavy bronze shields together, forming the impenetrable wall of the phalanx. The collision was a shock of metal on metal. The disorganized Persian charge slammed into a wall that wouldn't budge. The battle became a grinding, close-quarter struggle, where the Greeks' heavy armor and long spears began to dictate the pace. In the thick of the melee, General Mardonius was struck and killed. The news of his death rippled through the ranks, and the Persian command structure instantly collapsed. Without their general, the Persian forces fell into a panic. The disciplined army that had crossed into Greece months earlier dissolved into a mass of individuals fighting only to escape. The Greeks pursued them relentlessly, breaching their fortified camps, ensuring the Persian army could no longer function as a fighting force. The invasion was over. By holding the line at Plataea, the Greeks bought themselves 2 centuries of independence. This victory created the specific political and social conditions where the Athenian assembly could meet, and where thinkers like Socrates were free to develop their methods of inquiry. These ideas required the security that was forged on this battlefield. In that sense, the shield wall at Plataea protected the very time and space needed for Greek philosophy and science to be written down and passed forward.